Hello, everyone. Let's start our third episode of our Facebook Live fortnightly event. My name is Tesfaye Oldemetin, and I'm an English teacher and a professional skills trainer here at the British Council in Ethiopia. Our focus for this week is how to self-study English better. We will indeed particularly look at several points today. By the end of the session, you'll be able to understand important principles of language learning and become more familiar with useful ways to self-study. Make sure you follow us in our Facebook, on our social media sites, on Facebook at British Council Ethiopia, on Instagram at British Council ET, on Twitter at ET British. Self-studying. Why self-study? Like I said, like as usual, we will make this session as participatory as possible. And I'd like you to comment on the chat below why you think it's important to self-study to improve your English. Yeah. We've got several reasons, but the main one is it's one way of learning a language. And actually, language is for communication. Language is used in real life, in authentic environment. So using self-studying in your own environment is very important to help you to help you improve your English. So it's basically a very important element of learning a language. So you can't master a language just by coming to a classroom, because it's not like any other subject. It's a skill. So you need to develop it outside the classroom as well. So it needs to be strengthened by what you do with all the 4 skills outside the classroom. So you're learning to use it. So you need to go and apply it in your own, real, authentic environment. And how can you self-study? How is it possible to study on your own? So you may also respond to that on the chat box. So, so the key thing is it has to be regular. So if you're going to learn 5 words a day or 5 words a week, then it has to be regular. So on those schedules or plans, and it needs to be consistent. It shouldn't be something that you start and stop and continue again. It doesn't work like that. It will lag your progress. It will so it's important again to make it consistent, that you do this non-stop for a long time, not just for a short period of time and just stop it, because this is, a language. It's a skill. You need to use it, and only when you use it for a consistent period of time, then you will be able to retain it. So all these 3 points are important: regular, consistent, and long-term. So you have to make sure that you don't just say, okay, I'm self-studying and whenever I can, or you need to plan for it. And it needs to be regular and continuous, and it should last for a long time. That you should make it part of your daily habits, once your habit is formed, then it becomes normal to you, and it becomes much more easier, and you can easily get immersed into the learning process. So we'll cover a few points today: vocabulary, grammar, pronunciation. So we'll have some tips around the systems of language, and we'll also look at skills: reading, listening, writing, and speaking. And at the end, we'll look at some tools to help you improve your English skills and systems. So when we say vocabulary, grammar and pronunciation, we're not separately looking at them. We are just for the sake of emphasis, we brought them separately, but actually, all these elements are parts and parcels of the language skills. So there is no reading without vocabulary. There is no grammar without listening. I mean, they're embedded. So, but for the sake of clarity and emphasis, we will look at them one by one. Okay. So let's start with the first one, vocabulary. In the chat box, can you type what you think is important to help you remember vocabulary or any word long term? To help you remember vocabulary long term, which of the options given are important? Only understanding the meaning of the word? Is that enough, or is there anything else? How many times you see it? Using vocabulary in different ways? The amount of time or practice and consistency? Okay. Good. The answers are the three from B to D, as you can see. How many times you see it? The exposure is important for your retention. Using vocabulary in different ways, using it in different ways, in different contexts, is also important and helps you remember the word. And also the amount of time or practice or consistency, how consistently you practice with the word, and also be exposed to, helps you remember the word. So merely understanding the meaning of the word isn't really enough. There are other aspects which we're going to look at in the next slide. So what we're saying is, what's in vocabulary learning? Let me ask you that first. What does vocabulary learning include? What things does it include? You may type in your answers. Yeah. It includes meanings in context. So what we mean by that is one word doesn't only have one meaning. In most cases, one word would have several meanings. Again, in most cases, one word can serve as several parts of speech. Like one word can be a noun, and it might switch into an adjective in context, and maybe as an adverb as well, like when something is added or without. So we need to also know the spelling and pronunciation. Only knowing the meanings is not enough. So often people focus on the meaning and that's it. No, the meaning plus context And context comes with examples, right? So if you look at dictionaries, they normally give you the different meanings of that word with examples. So you need to be really serious about the examples as well, and look at how the word is spelt, because with a similar spelling, there might be another word that means another thing. Also, we need to think about pronunciation, and also, and make sure that we are able to pronounce it right, so that we don't mistake it for another word. Because in English, unlike many other languages in the world, we have words that have the same pronunciation, exactly the same pronunciation, actually the same spelling, exactly the same spelling, but different meaning. L-I-V-E, for example. I can just show it to you here. The word this word here, L-I-V-E, has two pronunciations, but the same spelling. If you think it's only live, no. So for the one that to stay alive, which means, the way we pronounce it is as just like this, simply, live. And for words, for the meaning, which is to say something is happening, for example, as we see it. So that's live. So a bit, and yeah, that's live. So we'd have something like, I'm using annotation. I'm using this phonetic symbols, but I don't have them here. So in my Zoom account, so it's not possible to show you the symbols correctly. But so the pronunciation is live and live, even though the spelling is the same. So that's why we need to be also serious about spelling and pronunciation. Pronunciation, yeah. Parts of speech. So we need to know what part of speech that word represents. Is it a noun? So that if it's a noun, you know where, in which structure it can be used. So knowing the parts of speech determines where it's placed in a sentence. So that's why it's important also to know. So dictionaries also have, next to the word, they say noun or verb or something. So you need to always look at them. The last very important point is usability. In a minute, I'll show you what we mean by usability. And that means, is the word still being used? Will it be understood by most people? So you might look at the dictionary and you might use a word that is not really being used currently, and that might not really be useful in a way. And so make sure that they are being used. They are not Shakespearean words. They are not from the Old English. So that's very important too. And how you can learn vocabulary in class or by yourself, or you can acquire them. So when you have conversation with someone, you might hear it repeatedly, and that repetition leads to understanding of that word, like we learned our native language, like we learned Amharic, Oromifa, Tigrinya, and other languages. So in the two ways it's possible, and you can the best way is to practice them. And the more you practice, the more words you will have to use when when you are in need of those words. So often students ask me, I studied this word, I know this word, but when I speak, I forget. The reason is, no matter how much you read the meaning of the word, the pronunciation, the spelling, parts of speech, you check the usability. If you don't practice, you'll not use it. It will not automatically come to your mind. So you have to first consciously try to use it. You have to also expose yourselves to, different medias. Listening helps. Reading helps. So the more you read and listen and find those words and those texts and conversations you would have, or writing, then you'll be able to retain them, and they become automated in your mind, in your minds. And that's the same with common words in English. You don't forget them because you are exposed to them. So you should always remember to not only know the word, but to then expose yourselves with the words, then practice the word in different contexts. So that's the application stage. So after practicing, doing exercises and consciously applying them, consciously practicing them, then you need to apply them, in real life conversation or writing. And that will enable you to retain them and use them, not only for academic purposes, but also in real life, communicative, contexts. So what is really key in this case? I repeatedly said, exposure. The more exposed you are with the word, the longer you retain the word, the more it becomes automated whenever you speak or write. So it's important, and you need to be consistent with it. Not just, for 1 week you try to expose yourself and you leave it. You need to use it as often as possible, create those exposures for yourselves, then you are less likely to forget them. Okay? Right. Moving on to grammar. Which of the following statements do you agree with? There are 5 statements indeed. Which ones do you agree with? We have to understand the grammar very well before we use it. Do you agree with that? No need to learn grammar? There's no need. Yeah. Knowledge of grammar can improve my English by itself. That's it. Grammar notes with examples and exercises are useful, are they? Grammar can be learned through practicing our English skills. Can it be learned through practicing the English skills such as reading, writing, speaking, and listening? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hope you're sending your answers in the comment box below. I would say in chat. I feel like I'm teaching through Zoom with my students, and I use chat a lot. But please comment your answers. Yeah. Right. Good. There you go. We have to use the grammar very well. We have to understand the grammar very well before we use it. Not really. Understanding can also happen while we use it. So if we have some understanding, we should just try and use it and see how others use it, and try to, as we use it, we can also try to learn more about that grammar item. So if it's the use of helping verb or some particular tense, then you can always search and learn or ask our teachers for more, for help. But we shouldn't say, I'm not going to use it because I don't have a complete understanding. Okay, sometimes in a context where it can be risky to create, that might cause misunderstanding, and that might be not a good idea. Maybe yes, but in a kind of learning setting, use it. No need to learn grammar. Even though we say, our very principle in the British Council is to teach everything communicatively, and grammar is one element of what we teach, but we teach grammar through skills. So when we teach you speaking, we incorporate some elements of the grammar. So let's say the teacher teaches you present perfect communicatively. Once you know the rules and everything, then he will create that opportunity for you to use it in class. So it can be through writing, doing exercises, or speaking. But we, incorporate grammar in the learning, and that learning grammar is part of any language learning. But the emphasis shouldn't be the grammar. The emphasis, we believe, should be the skills, and through skills, through context, real life context, authentic texts and contexts, people can learn them. And yeah, so that's not true. Knowledge of the grammar can improve my English by itself, it says, by itself. That's the problem there, huh? By itself. It doesn't improve your English by itself. So there is no, only reading will not improve your English, yeah? It will not be enough to improve your English, yeah? So all these skills, the 4 skills plus pronunciation, grammar, and vocabulary, are integrated. You cannot say you only need speaking or you only need that. You need them all. They are all embedded, and we need to address them together, and maybe sometimes separately, but they are integrated somehow. So we should always focus in all of them. And particularly, as a self-study strategy, you might think about your own gaps, yeah? So what's your gap? And maybe you need to work on it. If you are weaker in grammar, then work on your grammar more. So grammar notes with examples and exercises are useful, undoubtedly, yeah. Grammar can be learned through practicing our English skills, yes. So the first thing is to be aware of the, when possible, when people can learn it, people can acquire grammar from experience, from exposure, but you can also learn it. So you can read the notes, you can listen to the teacher, you can participate in class, you can get the, when we say notes, we don't just mean the meaning, again, like the vocabulary. We mean the meaning is important, we mean the form is important, the structure, we mean the pronunciation is important, and the context is also important. If you're learning the present perfect, for example, again, I'll use present perfect, you will have some pronunciation features that relate to the present perfect. For example, contraction, the contraction of have. So in day-to-day conversation, we don't say, I have been to Awassa. We say, I've been to Awassa. I've been. So we also, you also need to learn the different aspects of that particular grammar item, not just the meaning. And examples help you with that. Exercises. So once you have them, have the awareness, then you should practice, use it, yeah, and apply. Practice through further exercises, self-study them, and apply. Apply them in your conversations, in your real life conversations. And making mistakes is part of the learning. Yeah. So there is no such thing as, not making mistakes and only, always making sure that we don't, whenever we learn a language, we learn from our mistakes. When we speak, we will make mistakes. If we are learning a language, whatever new language that might be, we will make mistakes. And the key thing is, if we don't speak and just wait for the moment and not really use the language, we will not make mistakes. And so we will not learn. If we practice, we make mistakes, but we learn. So that's the most important part. As a teacher myself, I mean, as a non-native as well, and being in, my background in high school and also college and afterwards, I remember making a lot of mistakes. I remember students laughing at my English. I remember, not being afraid to speak, even though I knew I was making mistakes. And that has helped me to where I am, because then, I learned from my mistakes and I have come to where I am now. So no fear, because that's part of language learning. And it does, just because you make mistakes, it doesn't mean you're stupid. It is part of learning any language. Everyone makes mistakes in learning a language. And as part of learning your grammar, and making sure that you don't fear that you make progress, it's important that you self-reflect. So what I used to do is, if I said, for example, I have been to Awassa yesterday, and I hear someone not using that, and people like kind of paraphrasing, saying, "So you've been there? So you were there yesterday?" And then I correct the next time. So I'm always self-conscious and say, so it's not have been, it is was in this case, because it is a specific time in the past. So I say, I was in Awassa yesterday. Not I have been to Awassa yesterday, because we don't use the present perfect to talk about a particular time in the past, a specified time in the past. So I reflect, self-reflect. I tell myself what I have learned, even in a day-to-day conversation. And that has helped me a lot as a, learner coming to where I am now. So that's what you should do too. That will help you with your confidence. And next thing is pronunciation. So again, the same question as the previous slide, as the grammar question. Which of the following statements do you agree with? Pronunciation is mainly learned through listening and understanding. Sounding natural is key when speaking. Pronunciation can be learned through music. It's essential to have an accent. Pronunciation error can cause miscommunication. So sorry, the last one, they swap places. It says E and D. It's fine, you can just use them as E and D as they are. But okay, send your answers, leave your answers below. Yeah, you may leave your answers there. Good. Do you agree in the first case, pronunciation is mainly learned through listening and understanding? No. So the first one, not really. It's not mainly learned through listening and understanding. It's part of it. Listening and understanding are key, but pronunciation is a muscular activity. People tend to learn pronunciation by reading or listening or trying to understand what's on it or in it. And that's not really the best way to do so. The best way is to practice. Practice with your muscles. So you need to familiarize your mouth, your muscles, with the kind of sound you're trying to create. So it's very important that you practice and do drilling, saying it again and again. If it's, for example, the E, for example, if you want to say it correctly, it's, you say it's essential, it's essential, it's essential. Repetition helps with pronunciation, and it's a muscular activity. You need to feel a bit silly and play with it, I would say. And sounding natural is key when speaking. Yeah, there's one thing about not having an accent. I mean, you don't have to have an accent as long as your language is intelligible, as long as your pronunciation is intelligible, understandable. You don't have to have an accent. You don't have to have the British accent. You don't have to have the US accent. So you can just make sure that you pronounce the words right and people can understand you, and that's it. If you come for IELTS exam, the examiner will not focus on your accent, will focus on your intelligibility, that you can be understood. And that, I think, an element of sounding natural is important there, connected speech somehow, but not really having an accent. Pronunciation can be learned through music. Yes, it's a really good way of learning a language, I'd say. So listen to music, sing along. It's not only listening. Listening to music will help you with your listening skills. It will also help you with vocabulary, and also you can see the words in context. It's really good. But pronunciation, when you sing along, I can tell you, when you sing along, you learn pronunciation. I mean, you learn how to say the word correctly and the sentence correctly, and it will help you make it sound natural as well. So yeah, I suggest listening to music as regularly as possible if that's your interest. Pronunciation error can cause miscommunication. Yeah, it does. It does cause miscommunication, and that's English in particular. One word, just like I showed you earlier. One word could have several pronunciations without changing the spelling. And if you say one, not the other, then you're saying the other. Not, it will send a different message. So it definitely is important. It is definitely important. So some tips, some more tips here. So you need, when we think about pronunciation, we are talking about the individual sounds pronunciation. So for example, in Ethiopia, the common problem is around the th sound, because it doesn't exist in all Ethiopian languages. In most Ethiopian languages most languages that I have come across, and the students I have taught over the years have told me that it doesn't exist in their languages. So in Amharic, for sure not. So people would tend to say "ta," or they might say "I think" instead of saying "I think." Yeah. So you need to think about individual sounds. Sometimes, for example, thin and tin, two different words. So by saying thin, but by saying tin instead of thin, you're saying another word. And it can be acquired by exposing yourself through music and talking to different people. You can acquire it. You can, exposure helps in this case. You can learn it as well. So come to our English courses. We will teach you pronunciation. I think I can confidently say one of the best things you can get in our courses is pronunciation lessons. Unlike anywhere in the country that I have come across or worked at, pronunciation has been a gap in the teaching process, in the teaching kind of community. But with us, we teach you the individual sounds, words, how the words are pronounced, and also the sentences. So that's connected speech, how the sentences connected are pronounced. So that's another aspect that you will learn as well. So you need to also self-study that, practice. Use it, practice, apply. Pronunciation, just like I said earlier, it's all about application and no feel like the grammar. And you need to self-reflect. Oh, I used to say thin. No, I need to say thin. You need to tell that to your mind so that it can process it and automatically change it, uses it properly the next time you speak. If you don't tell that to yourself, you will keep repeating the same mistakes. And I can tell you for sure that happens a lot with students because they don't self-reflect. The moment you start self-reflecting, you know, your progress will be accelerated. Right. Reading. And so let's look at skills now. Yeah, we start with reading. And when we think about reading, the first thing we need to think about is, why am I reading? If you are going to an airport, you are not going, and you want to see, you know, the information about your flight. You're not interested in reading everybody's detail, are you? You're only interested in your information. So you just go, okay, my flight number. Okay, you just scan through it and find you're on. So you need to first identify your purpose for reading, and based on that, just focus on what you need to get. And that's the same when you practice on your own, when you self-study. We suggest you read different texts, such as, for example, you might use electronic or printed, you know, the electronic or printed materials to read. And then when you read, it can be for fun, or for academic purpose. Then you need to always apply, when you self-study, the purpose. So you don't need to understand every word for every task you do. So you need to focus on the task itself, and then that will inform your reading. Are you going to skim through it? Are you going for a general information? Are you going to scan through it? Which means, are you looking for specific information? And if you're going to read for detailed information, then that's where you need to understand most things, every statement in a paragraph or essay. So that's something to always think about, the purpose to why you're reading. And then you need to, when you practice on your own, unless it is the theme of what you read is of your interest, it's something that, unless it's something that you are interested in, let's say football, Premier League, or anything else, fashion, you know, whatever your interest might be, make sure you read about it. So you're not only reading for the sake of learning. When that happens, you might not continue. It might not be consistent. But let's say you are an Arsenal fan. Why not read an article about Arsenal regularly? And that's really a good way of engaging in reading and, you know, creating that exposure at your convenience. And, you know, whatever that might be, it can be, you know, magazines and things. It can be also to know more about something. So let's say you have headache and you don't know what that is. And okay, just type in the internet and say, I have headache, I have fever, is it coronavirus, or is it something? And then it will give you some, you know, you can click the links and read. And, you know, for searching to know about directions, you can just read and, you know, on a daily basis. So you are exposing yourselves, immersing yourselves with the language, and that will help you improve your reading skills and in a very methodic way. And listening is another receptive skill. And again, with listening, you need to know why you're reading, what you're trying to get from listening, why are you listening, and what you're trying to get from what you listen. Are you going for specific information? Is that all you need? That's what we do in real life, isn't it? We don't listen to everything someone says. We try to focus on what we want. Sometimes we need to listen to everything. That's detail. Or sometimes we just want to understand the general idea. That's all we need. So we need to, based on our need, identify that. Once our need is identified or the task is identified, then we can decide what and how we read. And that's the first step we need to implement when self-studying, also in class. And once that's there, then you can use online resources. It can be online resources, offline resources to read and do tasks. Exercises help, and that's the same with listening, reading. So you can listen and do tasks, and because these tasks are well planned, well structured, they will help you with your progress in reading. So I'll suggest you some sites later at the end of this session that you could use to practice your skills and systems later. So it's all about choosing what you listen, again, like the reading. It should be something you're interested in. It can be a football commentary. It can be a talk show that you like. It can be TED Talks, or it can be any YouTube presentation about your field of study of what you do, or your academic field. So make sure you're choosing the right content. You then need to think about other strategies. One thing you can do is, if your weakness is listening, you can sometimes listen to books instead of reading them. That it's up to you. But if it's to balance, you might expose yourselves with books that come with audios, so you can listen to them as well when you need to. Music is great. Music is great. I always tend to incorporate some features of music into my teaching. If I'm teaching, let's say again, present perfect, I would just bring a song that has some elements of the present perfect, and the pronunciation comes along with it, and the listening is there, the vocabulary is there. So it's a great way of learning languages, and also for your self-study, there is, if you like music, it's really good. And there you go. So, and you have people as well. If you have colleagues who speak English little bit as well, even if it means they speak this as much as you, just use the expo, use the chance, get together, speak, but you're also listening to each other. So real life listening is also important. Writing, thanks to technology these days, we have so many ways of practicing our skills. Same with writing, and we have notebooks, notes on our phones, on our computers. We can write there, we can edit there, we can use our notebooks if we prefer writing it on paper. And what can we do with those tools? We need to identify the genre. What are you writing? If you're writing a formal letter, if your plan is to practice writing formal letter, then we need to focus on that genre, formal letter. The register and everything is there. If we are then thinking about, a diary, keeping a diary, then there is a style to it. It's for you, it's not for others to read, but it's a good way of practicing your writing skills. Someone asked me, but if I write on my own, who's going to give me feedback? And if I don't give feedback, how can I improve? You don't have to get feedback for everything you write. It's like any other language. The more you write, you're applying the words you heard from TV, from radio, from friends. So you are helping yourself retain all those structures and words and pronunciation, not pronunciation, spelling that you've come across. And the next time you write it, it means you remember them. And when you speak, they feed each other. So you remember the word or the structure, the grammar structure or something. So you don't necessarily need feedback, but getting feedback, of course, quickens your learning. So in the British Council, one other thing we do is we give writing, lessons, and for those, and then we ask you to produce writing on that particular thing you learn, and we give you feedback, a thorough feedback, and that will help you, work, practice applying what you've been given, and then you will have another one, and you'll improve step by step. We will help you scaffold. You'll be scaffolded here with the teachers and resources we have in our center. And and you can use different websites. Our website is great. I'll show you later to practice your writing and listening, reading, all the 4 skills and the systems as well. And there are digital tools that give you feedback, like Google Docs. So it corrects your mistakes and things, but don't rely on those digital tools because sometimes they are not human beings. So don't 100% rely on them. And you should always double check. You can also, practice paraphrasing. So you read something and write it in another word, or you not only paraphrasing, taking notes. You can practice, taking notes by reading something and just keeping short notes. And that's really a good way of improving, practicing your writing skills. And, very important, but often not applied by students is editing and proofreading. Once you write, that's it. No, look at it again, edit it, and give someone to proofread it for you. Or, leave it for today, and next time, tomorrow or the following day, look at it again and try to see if there are any grammatical, spelling, punctuation, and other sorts of errors that need to be corrected. You sometimes can correct it. Some things you can correct, other things others can correct as well. So if you have people you believe have good English, give them to them, and they can help you edit, and that will help you see where your gap is with your writing. And with us, like I said, in the British Council, we do that. We give very constructive, detailed feedback. The last skill we're going to look at is speaking. And with speaking, we mean, with speaking, we have key confidence is very important. Not having that fear of making mistakes, and think about, using the opportunity you have, if you have colleagues who could speak a little bit English here, it can be, people from different walks of life, different countries. This is a huge opportunity. Being able to understand someone from Saudi Arabia, being able to understand someone from Turkey, from America, it gives you, great opportunity to not only improve one skill, but also your, you learn about the world. So it's something I always suggest to our students, and something again around you using your your phone. So there is some technology called speech to text. So if you, I mean, Google about it, there is, and some of you might have already been using it. You can just, dictate onto your phone, and it will type it for you. So that's, that way you can see whether your pronunciation is intelligible or not, whether the device can understand and type the word, dictate that the word, transcribe the word or not. So I suggest you use it's called text to speech to text or recognition, or ASR, and I think all these Android phones and smartphones have them. So make sure you use that. You can have a meetup group, where you meet with your friends and just practice English. And you can self-study like that. You can look at the mirror and talk to yourselves on a topic of your interest. That's a great way of practicing your English, because you're not only, trying to speak to yourself, but you're looking at yourself and seeing how other people would think of your English. And now we have a technology. Thanks to technology, you can record yourself and look at yourself again, and maybe self-reflect. And that's a great opportunity as well to use your video, your phone camera, to record yourselves talking about any topic of your interest. Last but not least, let's look at some websites. I'm going to suggest you our British Council sites, and the very best, I would say, is the learnenglish.britishcouncil.org. And in a minute, I'll show you what this site has. Actually, let me show you this now quick. So if you go to our Learn English website here, you can see online courses. Some are for free. Some you have, if you want the full package, you have to pay and join our course, online course, or face-to-face. You can see grammar in different levels. You can first identify your level, and for your level, you can find resources, and there are videos, audios, magazines, games, stories. You can also see, vocabulary activities for skills. You can find for all skills and for different levels. If you just click listening, you'll have, for different levels, you have to, beginner, pre-intermediate, for all of them. And you have some note and exercises to practice with. You just choose and practice. They're all for free, and that's really, good, I guess. So I suggest you use them. And yeah, so you may also look at other links to our websites for kids, for teens, and something about the Premier League. If you want to use the English Premier League content, there is also a separate website for it with lots of activities. And we have a lot of applications. You can just take these applications, take a screenshot and find them in your app stores and download them, install them, and use them with a lot of practice activities, videos, audios, games, very useful stuff. And that takes me to our upcoming My Class program, My Class course, which will start in April. It's a very flexible course, and the registration will start very soon. And you can learn more about this course by going to this link, by clicking this link and filling out the inquiry form, or you can scan the QR code and inquire and fill out the inquiry form again, and just let our customer service know, and they will also contact you when about our course, and they will let you know what the course is all about and how much we cost and everything. So that's it. Make sure again that you follow our social media sites. That's it for our session this evening, and I hope you've learned something today, and I look forward to our fortnightly event in 2 weeks' time, and bye for now.